meet you. How's everything coming along?
Everything's going well. I'm just jumping in out of kind of some of the week to week, month to month stuff, and doing the nightly classes. And I'm going to start taking PTs again very soon. Yeah.
Nice. Fantastic. Well, I'm glad you've been diving in and working through everything, going into classes and everything. That's awesome.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you today a little bit about test anxiety because I know that from my previous tests that I've taken officially and unofficially, I definitely have things I need to work on. And I think in particular, before I start jumping into my next practice tests, I want to kind of build up along the way so that when I get to test day, I'm like, oh, well, I've got this, I'm set. And I've been putting a lot of that practice to like not get anxious into motion.
Sure, of course. Glad to help. What's your target test date?
I would say October.
Good. So you got some time.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. So you have a few months where you can put things into practice, take some timed exams and work on that review as well. What do your timed practice tests look like? Have you taken any yet? Have you simulated test day?
Yeah. I mean, before I had taken several, like 30. But I guess when I did, that was a lot. Not like in the last month or anything, but like when I studied previously. So I would say that one of the things that I did when I simulated is, I mean, I got into a quiet space. I made sure that things were the way they would be on test day with lighting and air conditioning and everything. And then, would do the timing and have like, I had a proctor thing on my phone as well. So I tried to really simulate as much as possible. But I don't know, I guess on test day, you do get those jitters. And so I'm looking for ways to make sure that doesn't happen, particularly when I get stumped on a question and then I like spend way more time than I need to on it.
Mm-hmm. That's definitely something to work on, is just not getting bogged down in any one question. One thing I recommend for that is mindfulness meditation, to just practice taking charge and focusing on what you need to focus on. Have you ever tried that? Anything like that?
I've tried it, but I've not been consistent with it. But I've tried a little bit. I guess I need to like do it every day, I think, and be on that for sure.
When you tried it before, what was that like? How long did you try it for per session?
10 to 15 minutes, I think was what, I had tried per session.
Okay. I'd try reducing that a bit. So if you could reduce the duration, but increase the frequency. So instead of 10, 15 minutes every couple days, and it's hard to block off 10, 15 for something like this. It can feel that hard at least. What if you just tried to do 3 to 5 minutes every single day?
Yeah, I think that would be good.
And to anchor it to something else that you do. So what's another thing that you do every single day where you could see yourself doing the mindfulness immediately afterwards?
I make breakfast in the morning every day, so I could do it while I do that. That's like a quiet moment where I could do that for sure. Yeah.
Cool. So you make breakfast. Maybe you don't want to delay eating the breakfast.
Yeah, right.
maybe after you eat breakfast,
yeah,
then you give yourself 3 to 5 minutes to focus, or maybe before you start breakfast, 3 to 5 minutes. Typically afterwards is a good way to anchor it. So you have an activity that anchors you, and then you do whatever the new habit is that you're trying to form.
Do you think it's good to do meditation like right before the test? I did that on the last official test I took, but I'm not sure that I still got anxious.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, I do think it's a good idea, and maybe you would have gotten more anxious without it.
Yeah.
But just a few minutes just to kind of center yourself, focus on your breath. Doesn't have to be super serious or super heavy. I would just keep it light and just say, okay, I'm focusing on my breath for just these next couple minutes and trying to clear your mind, focus on the breath alone. And that way you're training that focus as a muscle, so that if you're finding yourself getting bogged down or stuck on a particular question, you can then recognize that it's happening. Look, okay, I'm kind of spiraling here and not really getting anywhere. And you can get worried about that one question, understandably so, but everything's worth the same. So whatever that question was, you just let go of it, flag it, skip it, hope to come back to it later.
That was another question. It kind of ties into the like staying on a question for a long time, is the idea of hyper skipping. and how that works. Because I'll be honest with you, let me turn my brightness up. I'll be honest with you, I have a lot of trouble skipping because then I'm worried. I'm like, what if I don't get time to go back to it? And so I guess just walking through some of the benefits of that, because I typically don't do that. And maybe I should, to gain points somewhere else later in the test.
Well, one benefit is that you then potentially have the opportunity to come back with a fresh perspective and break out of whatever tunnel vision you might have had associated with that question in particular on your first read of it. So that's one thing. Yeah. You also get the benefit of getting to the end of the section and knocking out any easier questions. So maybe there's a long parallel reasoning question that's number 19 or number 20, but question 25 might actually be a little bit easier. So why would you want to do number 19 first? It's a long parallel and will take you longer to complete, might be tougher, when number 25, you could secure that point first.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know I have to get in the habit of doing that. I mean, I don't want to skip all kinds of questions. I guess what would be a set number that would be okay to skip on a test to then come back to? Like,
I might do in logical reasoning, I might do 4 questions. I might skip 4 questions in one section. And that doesn't mean that I don't even look at them at first at all. But if it's a long parallel or a long principle application, and it's a number 19 or so, I might just skip it at first glance and say, I'll deal with this later. I don't want to look at it right now because I'm reading a lot more text and interpreting a lot more text for the same number of points. So that's one thing I might do with those. And then there's others where I might get down to 2 choices and I'm not really sure between the 2. I might pick one and flag it because I want to come back and have some more time. Hopefully. I don't know if I'll definitely have that time, but I'd like to move at a fast enough pace that I can at least lock up whatever else there is, because that question is already a 50-50. But I want to make sure I don't overly obsess over a 50-50 and then give up something else that ends up being a 20% 1 out of 5 through a blind guess.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I don't want to like lose points where I could pick them up in other places for a question that maybe I would, have a better shot at. I think my other question that ties into this too is just about testing, but timing the tests and looking at when I should really start doing that again. I mean, I've taken most of my tests timed just because I prefer to do that because I don't want to when I've done them untimed, it's like crazy. Like I could spend 45 on a section and that's way too much. And sometimes I even do worse. Which I don't know why. Maybe I just have more time to think about a question and change my answer. So I guess when would be a good time to start timing again? Or should I just go and do that?
I might start now. I mean,
so now, okay.
If you've already done dozens, you said.
Right,
so
yeah.
You've got exposure to the basics of the exam. You have a good foundation. Or do you feel like you have a good foundation?
I do. I guess just my question in it is, because I have done so many of the timed ones, I'm wondering if it would be of any benefit to do 1 or 2 or 3 untimed and then slowly build up. I don't know. I mean, I've been doing sections untimed right now. So I just don't want to jump in too quickly if I'm not ready. And then I use a test that I could have waited for down the line.
I hear you. I mean, there's benefits to both. I think that since you're noting that test anxiety is a concern, I want you to keep timed exams as part of your routine.
Okay.
Maybe you want to do 1 timed exam a week with review. Yeah. And then if you want to do some untimed work on the side, you can still do that as well, just to refine your accuracy a little bit more. But remember that the review after the fact is another opportunity to really drill deep into the nuances of the question.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely. And I've been keeping like a wrong answer journal and really trying to take time to go through it. I know it's best to do review like a day or 2 later, right? You don't want to do it right after for most of them.
Well, you want to be fresh. You want to be fresh. So I would do it within a day or 2.
Okay.
I wouldn't want you to do it immediately, at least not question by question, because you don't want to get used to that instant feedback, because you're not going to get that instant feedback on test day.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. We wish we did, but we don't.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I think that's it on my end in terms of just kind of looking at it. I really want to schedule everything out and make sure I do that, but I'll definitely, take the test timed and go from there. I guess before we go, how many hours of review do you think would be sufficient in terms of, like 2 or 3 hours for a test or less?
Well, it depends. It depends on
yeah.
how many questions you got wrong,
right,
and how many questions you had difficulty with, and then how involved your review process is after the fact. So you see in the classes, you see in the workshop recordings,
right,
that it can go pretty in depth, especially for logical reasoning and reading comprehension, where you have those ambiguities of language and you have the stimulus or the passage, you have the answer choices. There's a lot you could unpack there.
Yeah.
And so you just do whatever you think would serve you to better understand that question. But it could definitely take at least 2 to 3 hours per exam, possibly 4.
Possibly 4.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I just want to make sure I'm getting that in. I really try to do the logic games first because I find that easier to review, and then break it up with the other 2 because it can be a lot more challenging.
Yeah, you don't have to do all your review in one sitting. Definitely.
Yeah.
Take some breaks, spread it over a couple days if you need to.
Yeah.
Just so that you can give it the full attention that it deserves. I do have one other comment for you before we wrap up, which is you mentioned about timing yourself and using like an app. And part of reducing test anxiety is making everything as closely mirroring test day as possible. And so that would include using the Law Hub platform with the timer they have there instead of using anything external, because of course you can't use a phone on test day.
Right. Yeah, and I think that was one suggestion that you gave the last time that I'm definitely going to do as I start back into the practice test. I didn't do this for the diagnostic that I took, but I will now. Is I had not previously been practicing on Law Hub. I did take a test or 2 for the last test I took, but I'm definitely going to do that now. Yeah, because I think that was it would be a lot better than like using another service that doesn't actually mirror what it's going to look like.
Exactly. Yeah. So just start mixing that in with your timed exams. And also one other thing is that you said that you've done a lot of exams before.
Yeah.
Those could still be useful to you. Like, don't think that they're done and you can't touch them again. You can redo them. Obviously, you've seen it before. That could be inflating the scores a little bit, but there's still probably a lot to learn from those exams. So don't assume that they have no value anymore. Definitely revisit them as it would help you.
Yeah. And I think one more thing I just was thinking of in regards to that. So I pretty much had done, I think, up from at least like 65 and up. So in terms of this, would it be fair to start at 70 and up for a lot of my now practiced timed exams as a range? Yeah. The most recent.
70. I would focus on largely 70 and up. If you want to see something untouched, of course, you can go earlier.
Right.
But note the question types that are coming up in 70 plus. I mean, you've got the exam evolving over time. You have a lot of curveball games in 70 and up. Also, the comparative reading, the dual passages only start with exam Juno 7, which is right before 52. So a lot of what you're going to want to focus on is in the relatively more recent exams.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely do that.
Awesome. Well, it was great to connect with you and chat today. Anything else for this call?
I think that's it for now. Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure, Beth. If you need anything at all, just reach out. I'm happy to help.
I will, for sure.
All right, have a good one.
You too, Steve. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.